Hi, it's Megan from Sew and Tell Australia. In this video, I'm going to be working with Brindille Twig on their number 87 pattern, the Summer Romper. This is a size 0 to 3 months that I actually made for my son when he was first born in this really cute fox fabric that I got from Wattle Hill Fabrics Australia. I actually made a matching dress for him as well, for my daughter, which was super cute, so I might share a photo of that in the comments. But yes, we're going to be making this one today. So it's a really cute pattern. It's got across straps at the back. It's an elasticized waist across the back as well. It's just sewn up at the bottom, so it's very easy. It is fully lined on the back, so that it's nice and soft against baby skin. You can use either snaps or buttons. I chose to use snaps on this one, and I think I'll probably use snaps on the one I'm making today as well. It is from a jersey or a knit fabric, so it does need to have some stretch to it. I'm choosing to make mine out of this cute milk and cookies fabric. Again, I got this from Wattle Hill Fabrics actually. My best friend told me she's having a baby and she's having a little boy in the start of December. So in the Southern Hemisphere, our summer starts in December. So I'm going to make a cute little newborn size out of this. So I've got this as my main fabric. I'm going to be using this solid from So Unique Fabrics as the lining, lovely and soft. A couple of other things we'll need for this video. You can need either pins or clips. I tend to use clips when I'm using stretch or knit fabric because it doesn't mark the fabric like pins do, but you can use pins if you only have them. I've got my snaps, which I'll show you how to install during the video, my rotary cutter, a pair of scissors, I've got an unpicker just in case we need it, and some snips. I find snips are very handy just to have next to your machine to cut off any wayward threads and stuff. We're also going to be using our serger or overlocker. You can do it on your normal machine as well, but for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be using my serger. I will also be doing some steps on my cover stitch, so you'll get a chance to see what the cover stitch is like. But again, you can use a normal machine as well. So to get started, I'm going to be cutting mine on the projector, but if you have paper pattern pieces, that is fine as well. So let's start with the cutting. I've loaded up my pattern pieces here on my projector, but it's the same whether you have paper pattern pieces or projector pieces. There really isn't a lot to cutting for this one, which makes it nice and easy. So I'm going to get started. I need to cut 2 of my front, 1 in my lining fabric and 1 in my accent fabric. I need to cut 4 of the straps. I'm doing it in my accent fabric, and then down here, which I'll move up when I need, is 1 of my accent fabric. So I'm going to cut it now. Step 2 is to prepare or to finish preparing your pattern pieces. So the pattern does ask to make sure you reinforce with your interfacing, which we've already cut. It does actually ask for you to interface the entire strap piece. I personally have chosen not to, but I am going to be putting interfacing in the corners of all. So it's really important with your iron to make sure you have no steam, that it's on dry, and that it's on your lowest setting, because it can burn the interfacing very easy. So now that you've got that, you just have to apply your interfacing. Step 3 is preparing your back piece. So we're going to take our back piece and we're going to serge across the top here just to finish off that seam. Once you've serged along the top, you then need to take it and press it about 1.25 inches, and you want to press that down nice and flat. I've pressed this nice and flat now, and we're now going to, you can either do it on your sewing machine, stitch this down, or I'm going to use a cover stitch. This is a really good point to put any labels that you might have. So I just have these sew and tell labels that I had made. It just says what it is, and I write the size in a non-washable ink. So I can pop that in, and then when I gift it, they will know who it's to. So I'm going to take this over to my cover stitch, and I'm just going to cover stitch all the way along. I will do it from the right side because of the way the cover stitch works, but you can use a normal sewing machine as well, either a slightly longer straight stitch or a zigzag stitch. I've brought this over to my cover stitch machine, and I'm now just going to stitch all the way along to secure that edge. This is what it looks like. And then on the back, I've got that. So as I mentioned, I've popped my little tag in here with my sizing on the back. But now we're ready to thread the elastic through. To finish off step 3, you need your elastic and a safety pin, and we're just going to pop the safety pin through the end of the elastic and start to feed it through. It can be a little bit tricky to get it started sometimes, but once you get the elastic in there, it should feed through fairly easily. Now once you get the elastic to about 1/2 inch to 1 inch from the end, we're going to secure it with a pin. You can either do this with a pin or a safety pin. That just stops it from slipping through once we start to thread the elastic all the way to the end, so we don't want to let it go. So once we've got it out the other end, I like to take the safety pin out. I'm just going to pop another pin in the end here. And then I just give mine a quick pull to sort of more evenly distribute the gathers across the butt. So as you can see, we now have them fairly evenly distributed across the back. So on the inside you've got that with your little label to let people know what size it is. And on the outside, it looks like this. We're now ready to move on to step 4. Step 4, we begin the construction of putting it all together. So we're going to take our lining piece and lay it with the right side up. You're then going to take your back piece, again with your right side up. You're going to align the pieces on the edges. So we're just lining up these little notches and along there. They will now be wrong side to right side. So you've got your right side up of this. You're going to take your front piece, your accent piece, and lay it right side down, lining up the pieces again. So you should have lining piece right side up, back piece right side up, front piece right side down. I'm going to clip along here just to keep it all in place, but once I've clipped it, I'm going to serge along the edge here. Make sure you're not serging through your pin because your serger won't be happy with you. So once I've clipped it, I can take that pin out, but we're just going to serge all the way along here. It should now look like this when you open it up. Now we're going to do the other side. So we're going to keep it like this and we're just going to copy it. So we line up our edges. You will have a little bit of a bulge in the middle, that's okay. It's just really important that you line up all those edges and clip them down. So it should look like this. So you've got all your clips down this side. We're going to serge down this side now, making sure you leave the back open, the bottom open. You can pull these little bits down if it makes it easier for you. We're just going to serge from here all the way to the top. So now that we've got this like this, the next step is that we're going to serge the 2 front layers across the top. So you can clip this if you like, but you know, it is sort of lined up already, so I'm not going to bother. But I'm going to now serge across the top here. We are going to turn this right sides out now, so I am just going to clip these little pieces here. You can clip the corners a little bit if you want, just to give it a sort of nicer turnout. I just do a tiny little clip. And from here, we're going to turn it all the way out, and just like magic, it will all be together. Ta-da! So it should now look like this. I'm going to get a little knitting needle or something and turn those points out. But you've got the lined inside here. And we've got our back pieces. Yeah, looking good. Before we move on to step 5, I did just give this a quick press. So I turned out my corners and I gave it a press with the iron. So step 5 is we turn it over and we turn our back piece inside out. So when you're looking at it, you have your 2 front sides together. You're now going to line up the bottom pieces. So we've got our lining piece, our front piece, and our back piece. So it's important to get all 3 raw edges lined up together and just give them a clip so that you know that you've got it all together. Once you've serged that close, you can now turn it right side out again. And now it's starting to come together. So you've got your front piece, and then on the back your lining is now enclosed on there and that piece. Step 6 is to serge around the leg seams. So I'm just going to take this to my serger again, and I'm going to serge all the way around. So I've serged all the way around my leg seams. I'm just going to trim up these threads. And now what we're going to do is fold the serged inside edge to about 5/8 of an inch. And then we're going to stitch around it. So it's good to leave a gap. You need to leave a gap of about 1 inch at the beginning and the end of your seam, just so you've got somewhere to thread in the elastic. Sometimes it helps if you press the seam first, just so you've got that little bit of a memory fold going. We're going to do that on both legs. So I like to leave my gap at the bottom because it's going to be a bit hidden. So I'm going to press my seams down first, then I'm going to take it to my cover stitch again, and I'm going to start here and end here, making a case for me to feed my elastic in. I've now pressed this just around the inseam, and I'm going to cover stitch around. Again, you don't have to use a cover stitch. You can use a sewing machine with either a straight stitch on a long stitch setting or a zigzag stitch, but just remember to leave about 1 inch gap on both sides so we can thread our elastic through. Finish off step 6, we now need to thread the elastic through. So just like with the waist elastic, we pop our safety pin in, find our opening and feed it through. Once you've got it all the way through, You want to overlap your two pieces, and you can either sew them or serge them. So I'm actually going to serge them together, but I'll do that in a minute while I do the other side. So now I'm going to take my two sides and serge them together. Trim your ends a little bit. And then just pull it so that it pops back in. So again, I like to pull mine a little bit just to evenly distribute the elastic. Now we're going to close up our leg seams, so I'm going to take it back to the cover stitch and just close up those two little ends. At the end of step 6, your summer romper should look like this. So we've enclosed our leg seams. The final thing I need to do is just to tie off one of these final cover stitch threads. So it's always important to make sure that you're tying off your cover stitch threads. They can sometimes come undone otherwise. So I'm just going to finish tying this one off and snip it. And here we are. Step 7 is to attach the straps. So we're going to move on with that one. Step 7, we're going to take our 4 shoulder pieces and we're going to lay them one on top of each other so that we end up with 2. So we now have our 2 shoulder straps with right sides together, and our interfaced pieces are at the top of each piece. We're now going to serge across the top and down the side on each piece. You can pin this if you like, if you think it will make it a little bit easier, but I'm just going to sew it as it is. Once you've serged along the top and side, you're going to get your safety pin, turn it the right way out just at the top, and just pop it through the top corner there. Then you're going to turn it back to the wrong way, so right sides together, and sew all the way down that open edge, and repeat on each side. You want to make sure you're leaving this end open though. Once you've done that to both sides, you can now trim off the ends. And what we're going to do, oh, I didn't trim that one very well. Now what we're going to do is get that safety pin that's already on the inside and just start pushing it down, feeding it back so that you can turn your strap the right way out. Now that you've got both your straps out the right way, it's a really good idea to just give them a good press, give them a quick press, and then we're going to sew around the edges, so up, down and around. You can do this on either your normal machine with a slightly elongated straight stitch, a small zigzag stitch, or I'm going to do a single stitch cover stitch on my cover stitch, just to flatten them out a little bit and help them look a little bit neater when they're on your garment. So I'll take these over to my iron and give them a really good press. When I'm top stitching on my cover stitch, I will generally take out the left or right needle depending on which one I've got in, and just keep the middle needle. This allows me to have a bit of a guide on each side. So on the presser foot there are 3 guides for each needle, and if I have the middle foot in, I know that I can line up the edge with whatever I'm sewing, and it gives me that sort of 2 to 3 mil guide all the way around. So I've taken out my middle needle. I'll pull out my thread so it doesn't get in the way. Oops, it's taken my thread as well. Oops. And now I am good to go for sewing my straps, and I pressed it flat. So now I'm going to top stitch all the way around the edge, along the top and down the side. So as I said, you can do this on your normal machine with a slightly longer straight stitch, stretch stitch, or a zigzag stitch. So I'm lining up the edge of my strap with this notch here, and it'll give me a nice even stitch all the way around. As you can see, I've now got a nice straight stitch all the way around. With the cover stitch, it does mean that you've got the chain stitch on the back, but I actually don't mind it. I think it gives a little bit of texture to it. So that's why you may want to use a sewing machine, just so you don't get that chain stitch on the back, but I don't think it looks too bad. So I'll do the other one. All done. So now I have my 2 straps, I can move on to step 8. Step 8 is now going to attach your straps. So you're going to take your summer romper, fold the back in half like this to find your center point. You can now use either a safety pin or a pin, it doesn't really matter, and just pop it in there. This just gives you your middle point. Then lay it down flat and position the straps on the inside of the elastic. So you want to have them about 1/2 inch away from the pin, so about here. Take your first strap and you want to lay them across each other so they're angled. So if I start mine about there, and you want to make sure that the side you want on the outside is laying up, because again, remember I've got my chain stitch on the bottom. So I'm just laying that on a slight angle, and I'm going to pin that in place. You're then going to take your other strap, again measure about 1/2 inch, making sure it's on the inside, and lay it on an angle so that it's going to meet that corner, and pin it in place. So when we look at the inside, this is what we see. So I can probably put my straps a little bit more on an angle, but I might fix that up when I'm actually sewing them down. So I'll just move that one down a little bit. But basically, that's what it looks like on the inside, and we're going to sew them across there. So on the outside it should look like this, because when it's finished those will go there, but it looks like this. So now I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew across the top here. Again, you can do a regular straight stitch, a zigzag stitch, or a stretch stitch. I'm probably just going to do a regular straight stitch, and I'm going to go across it quite a few times because I want to make sure it's really secure. So I'll take it to my machine now. I'm at my sewing machine now, and I will just line these up. Now I'm sorry, I do have an extra LED lamp sitting here because the globe in my machine blew and I haven't replaced it yet. So you do obviously have to make sure that you're not sewing it down like this, otherwise you will attach it to the front. So just pull that under layer out of the way. Make sure it's on an angle. Put your presser foot down, take your pin out, always very important. And then I'm just going to sew a few times across this strap to make sure that it's secure. So that's my first strap done. And on the inside we can see it's on an angle. So now I will just take this pin out because I don't need it anymore. And I'll repeat to the other side. So now I've got my 2 straps there, and just to complete that I can cut off these angles or you can leave it. I did do my overlocking before, but I forgot that I was supposed to do it on an angle. So I'll just trim those off. And then I'll get my snips and trim those off. But this is what it should look like at the end of step 8. Now we can move on to step 9, which is our last step. The final thing we need to do is pop our snaps in to the top corners of our romper to close it off. So we've got our straps which will cross over at the back and they'll come down here and attach here. So I'm going to be using a bench press to do my snaps. You can also use handheld if you want. I prefer to use the bench press because it just gives a little bit more of a heavy duty and stronger attachment. However, these snaps the hand presses are still quite good as well. I got mine in Australia from Snaps Australia. You can also get it from Green Beans, and I'm sure in the States there's places like Amazon that you can get this as well. So I'm going to be using the little plastic snaps. They're a size 20 and attaching here. So another important tool that I find is a tailor's awl. It's a very, very sharp point, but it helps pierce through the fabric where you want your snap to go and helps give sort of a mark on the other side so it lines up as well. So I'm going to get my pieces, lay them down and put my straps across where I want. Put that down like that. I might just pop a clip in this side so it stays where I want it. And then on this side, I'll get it, make sure I'm happy with the placement. Get my tailor's awl, and I'm going to pierce through. Be careful of your fingers. So it's pierced all the way through. And when I pull it out, it's probably hard to see, but I've got a mark there and a mark on my other fabric. So I know when I put my snaps in, they're going to line up. So on your strap, you want your male snap. The male snaps are the ones with the outy bits. The female snaps are the ones with the inny bits. Easy to remember. And I'm going to attach my cap on the back of the strap. Too many S words. And then I'm going to put it in here, and I've just realized that I have my female piece in, so I'll screw that one out and my male one in, and then I'm going to put this in, push it down and put a lot of pressure on it, and that's my snap piece. So when I put it on the front, it'll line up. So I've got my male piece in, so I'm just going to continue with the other side while I've got it in. So I get my awl, line it up all the way through, get my strap, cap, male piece together. Oh, don't get your fingers. Done. So I now have 2 straps with male pieces on them, and now I can do my female. Once you've done your male sides, you can do your female sides. So I've swapped it back to the female press, and because I've already used my awl, I know exactly where to put the pieces. So with this side, you want to make sure you're putting your caps on the outside. It's really important to get this right because they're really hard to get off if you get it wrong. Trust me, I know. So put it on the outside. Down nice and hard. First one. Second one, and you're all done. So now you can match up your male and female straps, crossing them over at the back. And you have the cutest little summer romper ever. So this is our summer romper all complete. You can give it a final press if that's what you need to do, but it looking really good at the back. We've got our straps there, we've got our label, everything is ready to go. So with your summer romper, you can add something underneath it. So I chose to make a cute little bodysuit out of a lounge rib. So this is the bodysuit pattern number 9. As I mentioned before, the summer romper is a really good one to layer. So it's just going to go underneath for my friend. Looks super cute. You can also use something like the free ringer tee, pattern 99, the Henley tee, which is pattern 127, or even if you've got a girl one, there is the flutter sleeve tee, which is pattern 57. So that's all for this tutorial. Hopefully you found some useful information. The next one I'll be doing is the essential coverall, so keep your eye open for that. Otherwise, as always, you can like and subscribe to the video. If you've got any questions, just pop them in the comments box and I'll answer what I can. Otherwise, thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.